everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Samantha Anderson. I am a freelance artist and teacher hoping to inspire creativity. If you would like more videos like these, please take a second to like and subscribe down below. It really helps in the algorithm of YouTube to help get my videos seen to more people. If you want to receive notifications of when I go live, please make sure to hit the bell and choose all notifications. If you have any questions during or after the class, make sure to pop a comment down below and I will answer it as soon as I can. I'll be leaving timestamps down below so you can skip ahead to the start of class, but I will be sharing announcements as well as supplies, so make sure to stick around for that. If interested in learning more about my classes, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and feel free to check me out on Patreon, where I teach exclusive classes to those who support me. In Patreon, I also give traceables for all of my live classes, including this one. Lastly, if you would like to share your work after class with me and others who painted along with us, please head over to Facebook, as I have an artist community where you can share your finished painting with us. I'll leave links for all of that in the description box below. Thanks for joining me, and let's get started. Hello everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, whenever you're painting. It's been a long week. I'm finally out of quarantine, as you guys have been with me through the last two classes. I'm back with my family now. My baby is out in the living room with her dad, and yeah, so thankful to have a little bit of normalcy. I'm just gonna give out my paints real quick and do my traceable. But yeah, say hi in the comments if you're here. I would love to chat with you before class. If you have any questions, let me know. Even if you're watching the replay, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them down below and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Especially if you're watching after the live, then yeah, I will still try to answer them. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna do white. Should I do raw umber or burnt umber? A little burnt umber. No, raw umber. It's fine. Honestly, any brown, just to tint the colors. And then I have yellow, green. I might do viridian. Do pale green. Pink. I'm gonna get out my red just in case. I said pink or red. Most of this is pink, but sometimes to darken things up, instead of putting black, if you put like a prettier like color, so to darken it with red versus black, it'll keep the vibrancy of color. And then I'm gonna do Phthalo Blue. Where is it? And then I have a light purple. I don't remember if I have it in my bag or not. Hi, Pamela. Okay, let me get my... I have like this lavender purple that I wanted to use. I forgot to get it out. This is like what I used to take to all my my classes, literally just a bag of paint. But here it is. So this is the purple. It's a light lavender purple. It just says purple on it. It's Master's Touch purple. It's more like a lilac. But I think it will be perfect for this class. But yeah, everything else I'm using is from Hippie Crafter. Let's see. I hope you're all doing well. I just printed out my traceable and put it on the back. For this class, I'm not necessarily teaching how to do a rose. They're fairly intricate, so if you have time to do that now, I would definitely try to sketch it out. If you're not sure how to sketch it out, I have a traceable available on Patreon, and that's available. Hi Tanya, hi Joanne, hello, welcome, welcome. But yeah, so I have, if you want to support the channel and you don't want to paint a rose, then two birds with one stone. You can support on Patreon and get a traceable. But yeah, I just did that and I put it on the back here, kind of lined it up, figured out where I wanted it, and then I'm just going to put a light behind it and then draw it on. One thing I will say, make sure that you draw it on lightly, because we're going over it with such light colors like our whites and our pinks. If you draw it too dark, it will be really hard to cover up those lines and you'll have to do more coats than what I will be doing. So just try to draw it really lightly. You can always draw it on there and then try to erase some of the lines if they're too dark, so that's nice about using pencil. But if you use I think if you use a colored pencil or even like a chalk of some sort, you won't have to do that because it'll just brush off. But if you're starting with white canvas, you can't really do that. Bonsoir, hello. Are you from France? Just curious because you said bonsoir. Okay, I'm going to do my traceable. I highly recommend drawing it ahead of time. So essentially what we'll be doing is, if I were doing this not in a 2-hour class and I had the time to paint it and let it dry, I would paint the whole thing gray, let the whole thing dry, and then I would go on with like a white chalk to kind of figure out where it all is. Or I would do what I'm doing, is where I'm going to essentially draw on my traceable, what I want it, exactly how I want it, and then I'm just going to go around it and paint gray all around it. And this is ideal for classes like this because we don't have time to necessarily let the whole background, you know, do 2 coats, let it dry all the way before moving on. So we're kind of just going to go around the rows and then paint from there. Hi Lynn. Good to have you with us. You're doing your traceable? Yeah. I am about to start my traceable. Let's see if I can find my flashlight. But I hope you all are doing well. My husband got me this like sparkling watermelon drink. It is very tasty. I think I don't drink drinks very often. So when I have one, I'm just like, it tastes so good. Thankful for sweet treats once in a while. I think I'm going to And if you're not using a traceable and you're just drawing it, essentially you want to just think about the petals are all just kind of overlapping each other. So there's like, you draw a circle and then you draw down and then you draw just like kind of encompassing it, and each one like touches the next one. If you've never drawn a rose, I would just look at the picture, which if you don't have access to the picture, you can go to either my Facebook or my Patreon. I have a public post that I believe I included the actual photo, and you can either download it from there or you can go to Facebook and download it from there, or just look at it on there, just the original reference photo. Another way that I've traced things before, like if I don't have like a hard copy of it, then I will like make it as big as I can on the on like a screen, and then I'll just like put a piece of paper or whatever it is I'm transferring it to, like just on the computer, which is probably not good for the computer, but I don't press hard. So if you trust yourself not to injure your computer, you know, there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different tools that we can use to trace. And a lot of people like to say that tracing is cheating. It's not cheating, it's just a tool. Just another tool. A piece of tracing paper cannot paint it for you. You still have to do the painting. It's not magic. I think one thing if you are drawing it yourself, just make sure that you have a lot of petals. It might look a little either flat or not like a full rose if you don't have just a ton of layering. I usually do this with half the lights off, so it's like kind of hard to see what I'm doing. Because I have like that light over there that's on the canvas, usually on that light. But that's okay. It's just a rough, it's like if I were to sketch it on, it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to be painting over all of this. So, and theoretically, if it's not the same exact thing as my traceable, it's more unique. More unique to you. I think almost done. Is anyone that they know of, is anyone doing anything fun for Valentine's Day? I know between me and my husband, it's kind of hard to do Valentine's things with just you and him when you have kids, especially in quarantine when like babysitter isn't really an option. Just because of COVID stuff. Alright. Yeah, it's going out with my side man. It's funny. Okay, so for everyone pre-doing this, which I highly recommend that you do. I wouldn't recommend just like going for it. It's nice to have structure before you paint in. Don't paint in, or don't draw in the stem. There's no point. We can definitely go over that, over the gray after we're done with the gray. I don't think you necessarily have to go around that. I mean, maybe the stem, I would say. But the leaves, we can put in the leaves later. So I wouldn't worry about that. For anyone wondering, this is what my traceable looks like. Very large. This is the traceable for the 11 by 14. I also have a traceable for the like a 9 by 12, which would probably also work for an 8 by 10 if you were using that. Let's see. Lynn says, my daughter is going to watch her boyfriend play basketball, and I said I would drive her, as it's about an hour away. Oh, some nice daughter time, mother-daughter time, right? That's fun. I feel like I don't go anywhere, so like a long car ride is like so foreign to me at this point, because I just haven't gone anywhere in a while. I can't wait for COVID just to be over. It'll be a nice change. All right. Does anybody have any questions? We have about 8 more minutes before we get started. Do you have any color questions, brush questions, acrylic questions? That's what I'm here for. Personal questions. I don't know how personal I'll be getting on YouTube, but oh, I do have a green. I found my other green. May or may not use this. I feel like I just bought this white and it's like already empty. Maybe not just bought it. It's probably been a few months. But anyone else go through white so fast? I've really enjoyed using the Hippie Crafter acrylics because they're in these like little bottles that are like super handy, that I'm not like carrying around these giant things of paint all the time because I kind of buy in bulk a little bit. So I've just been like refilling them. I mean, I think the white and the black are the only ones that I've actually refilled. They last a pretty long time because they're not like all colors that I like use constantly. But my cat happens. But also the white cap is like half broken, so I'm probably gonna have to stop using the white one because I use it so often, use it so much. Okay, and of course, before I even start painting, I have paint on me. Life of a painter. Hi Samantha, watching with my 10-year-old. Hello from the Philippines. Welcome. Thanks for the class. You're welcome. Thanks for watching. Hi, just observing. To my painting tomorrow. Yeah, of course. You are welcome. Gotta love air bubbles in paint. They just go everywhere. I'm excited to paint. Every time it's a Monday, I'm just like, yay, it's Monday, I get to paint. It's like my happy place. Okay. I have everything. It's like firecracking going on outside. I don't know what that is. I don't remember. I haven't shared. For people who aren't on Facebook. Where did I put it? Oh, here it is. I want to share the. Oops. Sorry, I bumped the mic. Can you still hear me? Let me make sure. The outlet. Okay, you're good. The little nub on the top that connects my mic is like super touchy, so if I touch it during the class, I'm just like, does it still work? Is it still connected? For my Patreons, or in my Patreon, for my patrons, we did a Love Bug Ladybugs class, and this is what we did, and it came out super cute and really pretty, and I really love it. So that's what we did in my Patreon for like our Valentine's one, our Love Bug Ladybugs. So if you're interested in that class, that's in my Patreon. I do exclusive classes for everyone who supports me. So if you wanted to get the traceable and wanted that class, you would just upgrade to the magenta tier, which is only $2 more, and you get all of the classes I've ever painted exclusively for my Patreon. So that's really cool. But yeah, that was really fun. I feel like I'm on like a ladybug. I don't know how to say this. Like, I really enjoy painting ladybugs, and I didn't know that until I painted the first one. And it was like a watercolor one. Painted it, and I was like, this is really fun. This is a cute little ladybug. And then I ended up putting it on the calendar for like February. But ladybugs are cool. Okay, we are about to start class. I'm excited. Hope you got all your supplies, all your questions out. I'm excited to paint. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Samantha Anderson. I am a freelance artist and teacher hoping to inspire creativity. If you would like more videos like these, please take a second to like and subscribe down below. It really helps in the algorithm of YouTube to help get my videos seen to more people. If you want to receive notifications of when I go live, please make sure to hit the bell and choose all notifications. If you have any questions during or after the class, make sure to pop a comment down below and I will answer it as soon as I can. I'll be leaving timestamps down below so you can skip ahead to the start of class, but I will be sharing announcements as well as supplies, so make sure to stick around for that. If interested in learning more about my classes, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and feel free to check me out on Patreon where I teach exclusive classes to those who support me. In Patreon, I also give traceables for all of my live classes, including this one. Lastly, if you would like to share your work after class with me and others who painted along with us, please head over to Facebook as I have an artist community where you can share your finished painting with us. I'll leave links for all of that in the description box below. Thanks for joining me and let's get started. Hello, hello! Welcome back to class. I am super excited to be painting. We are painting this rose, pretty Valentine rose. Valentine's Day rose, whatever you want to call it. I love painting flowers, so I'm really excited for this one. I think last year, middle of the year, we painted a rose, a little bit of a different angle, and that was really fun, so I'm excited to explore this angle and these colors, so I hope you're excited as well. Let's go over some supplies, and then after supplies I'll be answering any questions that you may have before we get started. So for these supplies, I'm using an 11 by 14 canvas. It is a stretched canvas, so it has side, tops, and bottom, so make sure to remember to paint that so you can just kind of hang them right on the wall and make your own collage. I did use my traceable that I have available in my Patreon. You can scroll up in the chat. I do have that available for anyone who supports me, all patrons, no matter what tier you're in. So if you support on Patreon, you get a traceable. And this is really just to not only thank my patrons for supporting me in that way, but also just to help them along. Sometimes drawing is hard and painting is easier, and sometimes having a traceable makes painting easier. So I have that available. I will be using acrylic paints. I have some from Hippie Crafter. I have some other from Liquitex and Master's Touch. Just kind of use whatever you have. I only use full body acrylics. So if you have the soft body acrylics, which are the more liquid type, kind of almost pour painting style of acrylics, try not to add too much water to them because they're already essentially watered down in a way, so you won't have to water it down in order to get a consistency that's easy to apply on the canvas. For our paint that's full body, we will be having to water it down here and there to make it more in the good consistency to apply on the canvas. I have a bunch of brushes. I have a link in the description for the kit that I use specifically. The kit that I use, they're gray handles. I've had them for over a year. It's great. It's like a $15 or $20 kit. It's got a bunch of brushes. So I'll be using an array of brushes in there. I would say, I will let you know what I use when I use it, but essentially you want a large brush for the majority of the background, or all of the background. You'll want a flat brush or a angled brush to get in some of the little areas, and then I'll also be using just a small detail brush as well as a liner brush later when I do my signature. So use the brushes you have, get as close as you can, and if you feel more comfortable with a different brush than what I'm using to get in the little crevices or do a certain part of the painting, feel free to do that. You don't have to use exactly what I use. For the colors, I will be using my white. I didn't get my black out. I have my black. my white, my black, my raw umber. If you don't have raw umber, you could use burnt umber, so that would be fine as well. Just any type of brown to be able to kind of dull down the colors. Brown is really great for doing that. If you use black, sometimes it can gray it out. With sometimes you don't necessarily want to gray it out, you want to keep the color in it. So dulling it out with brown, or darkening it with brown versus black, is better. So I have my white, my black, my brown, phthalo blue, and then I have this pretty purple. It's like a lilac purple that I'll be using, and then my pink. This is just rose. It doesn't have to be the same brand or color of pink. And then I also have, a red. I don't know how much I'll actually be using that red, but I have it just in case I need to darken or make some color, just, you know, mix some colors. And then I have a green that I plan on darkening. That's just because I have this bright green. And then actually I have another green that I might use. Let's see if I can find it. Now that's okay. If you have a light green like this, and this is the only color you have, you can make all of these colors that are in here. The dark green, the yellowish green. If you have the yellow, like a dark blue, which is the phthalo blue that we're using, and a brown, you can make all of those colors, even if you have this bright, obnoxious green. You can do it. That's what I will be doing with this green, okay? And then I have my yellow. So these are the colors that I will be using. Here's the pink and purple that I'll be using. Pretty colors. And then we'll just be mixing and making the colors that we want. If you need help mixing any of your colors, just let me know. Just ask and I'll do my best. It's not necessarily like an in-person class where I can go around the table and, you know, help you with your colors, but I can at least answer any questions you may have, at least try to, from here. And then lastly, you have your palette or paper plate, water, paper towel. You should be good. Okay? Does anyone have any questions before we get started? Let me know. While I wait for questions, let's go ahead and grab our black and our white. We're going to make a very simple half and half gray that we're going to cover the entire thing around the bulk of the rose. And then I'll probably not go over the stem, or I might go over the stem and just create the stem later. I'll probably do that. But yeah, go ahead and get your black and your white out, and we will go from there. You are going to want to make a good amount of this gray because it is going to be going over the entire painting, like the entire background. So it's a lot easier to have a little bit of extra than not enough and have to recreate the same exact color. So I'm just getting a lot of paint. I'm going to grab my, where is it? Somewhere. Alright, my palette knife has disappeared once again. Oh, it really does like to, it likes to disappear. Okay, I have a different palette knife that I'll use. I like using palette knives for mixing because I don't have to worry about it getting all of my, I don't have to worry about it getting all of my brushes and bristles, you know, tainted with paint. I have not traced the flowers. We'll be going over the drawing part of for those who have not traceable. Yeah, I can go over that right now. I won't be teaching exactly how to paint a rose because they are fairly intricate. My suggestion would be to essentially draw a circle. I'm going to draw a circle, and then in the top portion of it, you're going to do a little circle, and then for every part of it, and I can actually, let me show you on the traceable that I have. So essentially what you're going to focus on is you're going to just go up and down. So every time that you start a new petal, you're going to go up and down, and you're just going to fill in the areas and keep going around until you fill it out, and you'll be creating just more and more. Like here you can see it really well that it goes up and around and then up and around, and you're just making a bunch of like little mountains essentially. And then when you come around, you start seeing the other side of it. So I'll go ahead and leave this right here so you can look at it as much as you can. Hopefully that's helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully that's enough to kind of get you started. And if you need to focus on just drawing, and you can just listen, you know, until you're done, you can, even though we're still live, you can still move back and go to the beginning of class. You'll just be, you know, half an hour behind, but you'll still be able to ask questions and just say that you're behind, and I'll help answer it. But even then, and you can, you know, do the drawing now and always come back, you know, later when you're ready and paint it then too. I keep all of my live classes online. I don't take them down. And yeah. So I am making my gray. And I think, let's see. I want a fairly medium gray. I think this is I want a little bit lighter than this. And then once you start getting, every little part is going to be a little bit bigger. Once you start getting to the outer edges, and you'll start to see like the fold over, like here we have a fold over, and here we have a fold over, and then here's a fold over right here. Just look at the picture and do the best you can if you're not using the traceable or another you know, drawing of a rose. I think I like this green. I'm tempted to put, sorry, gray. I'm tempted to put just like the tiniest touch of green in it, because I feel like the gray has like the tiniest bit of a green like tint to it. I'm just gonna do that. Tiniest bit of green. You might not even be able to see that there's green in it, but I'll know. I'll put a little more. If I even have any green left. Roses are hard for me to do. I think during this whole class, you're just gonna have to be patient with yourself. And if you need to take a break, which is one of the reasons why I keep my classes up. Come back to it. You don't have to finish the whole thing now. Everybody paints at a different speed, and if you need to take a break and come back to it, you can. I think last time I did a rose, it took like, it was 2 hours, but it was only like this much of it, you know? So I think that's why I'm not like teaching how to do the rose right now, because it would take me 20-25 minutes to teach you how to do the actual rose, and then another, you know, that's 25 minutes that we can't spend painting it. So all right, it is time for us to start painting. With that said, I am going to, so I have my gray. I have a good amount of it. It's kind of hard to see because I have a gray palette. But this is like, I have all of this. I'm going to grab my, I use a filbert brush for doing my backgrounds because I feel like you have less, it's just easier to blend on it. That's my opinion. I like it. I'm going to grab a little bit of water and mix it in just with a little bit of stuff that I'm going to be using. And I'm just going to work on covering the entire canvas with the exception of where I drew my rose. Specifically the rose itself, not necessarily, I think I'm just going to go over the stem that I have. So don't worry about doing the petals. We're going to put those in later, okay? So I'm going to just start somewhere, and because we did the color, we don't have to worry about it drying or trying to blend. We will be spending all of our time blending in the rose. And what's really nice about using a gray for the background is because it has black and white. Black and white are very opaque, which makes this a great color to put for the background because we only will have to go over it once, provided we get in all of the little cracks and textures of the canvas. A lot of times when you're blending with colors that are more translucent, you'll have to do a few coats to make the blending seem the blending transitional, to make it look good. But if you would like to use a separate brush for getting in like around the outline of it, you can do that if you're more comfortable with it. Then just come back. I'm just switching back and forth between that brush and just blending it out. And when I say blending it out, I mean just blending it out with the rest of the paint. So like when you look at it when it's dry, it's like a seamless transition. So there's not like clumps of paint. go ahead and paint this side because I always forget. With these types of acrylics, if you ever get to the point where you're trying to paint and it's just not really going on very easy, just try adding the smallest bit of water, and that will help kind of liquefy your paint, and it'll be able to move a little bit easier on your canvas. The types of paint that I am using are mainly I'm using Hippie Crafter acrylics, full body acrylics. All of my painting is all of my acrylics are full body acrylics. But I am using Hippie Crafter mainly, and then I'm using Liquitex Basics as well as Master's Touch, and that's from that one's from Hobby Lobby. I think it's specifically the Hobby Lobby brand. You're welcome. Just a reminder that if you use too much water, it will be see-through and you'll have to do a second coat of the gray. So I'm mostly using all paint with like just a little bit of water to help it blend. And when I say blend, I don't mean blend like blend two different colors. I mean blend as in just, you know, going over the canvas and getting into all the crevices. It's not Hippie Blaster, it's Hippie Crafter. So this is what the brand looks like. I don't know. It's not. Focus! That's what it looks like. So, Hippie Crafter. It's on Amazon. Or if I have it linked below. If you look down below, it's a or you can find it in my shop. So for anyone looking for supplies that I use specifically or ones that I recommend, you can go to amazon.com or .ca for Canada /shop/SamanthaAndersonArtist. Actually, I believe I have links to both of those I can just post for you. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I see. Actually, let me post that again. It doesn't have the HTTPS. It doesn't like recognize it as a link. There we go. Yeah, so both of those links, depending on where you're buying, I have Hippie Crafter in there. It's just another brand of a paint. I've enjoyed them, the colors and everything. But the Hippie Crafter is nice because you get a bottle about this big, and you get, I think it's 20 colors. And it comes in a little box. So if you are new to painting and you want like a box set of paints that are, you know, bigger than the tiny little tubes, it's definitely nice to have. You get a good variety of colors. What's nice about using the exact same color of gray the whole time is I can go over any parts that I either missed or didn't fully cover. Acrylics does dry a tad bit darker than when you put it on, so it's going to look like it's a different color, but don't worry, it'll dry, and you'll have just a clean color. Hope that makes sense. Alright. So thankfully now we have let's see, we have about an hour and a half to really just focus on the flower, and then we'll do the stems closer near the end. once the background is fully dried, because we want to make sure the background's fully dried before we go over it with the green, because if we don't, then it'll get, you know, it's sticky right now and it might blend, and we don't want that. So let's go ahead and mix up our pretty purples and pinks and white colors, and then we'll go from there. Let me know where you're at with the background, because I do want to those who are painting with me live, I want to be able to paint with you guys, and help you with any color choices that we're gonna do. Okay, so I'm gonna put down hello. Alright, so I'm gonna get out my white. I'm going to get out my pink and my purple. So essentially I'm going to pre-mix my colors. Since I don't have exactly what I'm going to put on the rose, I'm going to pre-mix them. I'm also going to get out my yellow, because there's a little bit of like yellow orangish going on out here. And actually, let's see, I'm going to start with the inside first. So I'm going to make the darker colors. So we have 3 layers of this rose. We have the inside shadowed purple, that's very dark. There's purple, and then there's like a pink. And then on the outer layer, there's like a light pink and like the almost orangey kind of going on, and it's more white as it opens up. So let's start with the darker colors on the inside, which is going to be like a purple and brown. So I'm going to get out some black, as well as some raw umber. And I'm going to mix together brown and purple and a tiny bit of pink, and see where I land. Okay, that's probably like the medium dark color that I want to go for. So I'm going to leave that, and then I'm going to make another color that's primarily black, but it has just a little bit of this purple in it. Maybe a tiny bit of like the brown and pink, just to keep consistency with the colors. Alright, so it's like a purpley black. And then lastly, I'm going to make the overall purple color, because this purple is great, except it's too bright. So I'm going to put some white in it, mix in some white. I'm going to put in a tad bit of pink to warm it up a little bit. It's a little bit on the cool side. And I think that's pretty. Alright, so now that I have like the 3 colors, again, I'm going to go over the colors real fast one more time. So the lightest color is just pink, purple, white, and a tad bit of pink. This medium dark color is going to be your purple and brown with a little bit of pink. And this one is your purple and pink plus black. So they all have purple and pink in them. This one has black, this one has brown, this one has white. Okay, so hopefully that helps. And the pink is pretty much just like a touch of it to keep it on the warmer side versus the cooler side. If we wanted it even cooler, we would add blue rather than pink or red. If you don't have pink, use red. And yeah, I'm going to focus on the inside first and kind of figuring out all of that. So from the picture, it looks like my darkest color, and I'm just using a small round brush. My darkest color is going to go in here. And I think I'll be able to zoom in a little bit for you. Let me do that real fast. Hopefully that's better. So when I'm doing this, I'm going to be working on each individual platform by itself, like each individual petal. And you can always come back and like fix any sort of highlights and lowlights, so don't worry if you don't get it perfectly. This kind of first go through is just getting the basics of the highlights and lowlights of colors. Just try to focus on the darks and the lights, not necessarily the exact color, because we can always come back and kind of like help that. And when you're in the middle, anytime you go to like the next petal, you're probably going to start off with your darkest color because that's going to be in the shadow. So the petals that are close knit inside are going to be dark, and they come to light as they come out. So the tips of all of it are going to be light, and the bulk of the rose is going to be on the dark side, like inside of it. So what I'm focusing on is making the outside of it light with my different purples and the inside of it dark. And I can always come back and accentuate that contrast if I need to, which I probably will need to. Just by adding my highlights and lowlights. think I'm going to make a lighter purple by just adding a little bit of purple to this white. Just so I have a little bit of a lighter one to go to. And I'm just going to focus, again, I'm just focusing on my lights, my highlights, and my lowlights. Lights and my darks. A lot of times I think about painting roses as just kind of like a coloring page. And I'm just focused on one part at a time. Going back and forth between my light and my medium purple. And when you first start this out, every single time you put something on, you're going to be like, I don't even know what I'm doing. It looks like nothing. But as you start building it up and building it out, you're gonna start seeing it, and it's gonna look good. Just trust the process. I feel like 90% of painting is just trusting the process and keep going. I like to say that every painting has a ugly stage, and we are in the ugly stage right now. It's where it's like halfway done. You know what it's supposed to look like, but doesn't quite look like that right now. The closer that a petal is, the more quick of a contrast that it is going to go from dark to light because it's so close to it. If it's further away, it's going to have a little bit more of a dark to light versus like a quick dark to light. It's going to have less of a contrast there. You're welcome. yeah, I think everybody has different ways that they paint. And I think that however it works for you, works for you. And yeah, I think learning different ways to do it can definitely help expand your abilities. And because I'm focused on just one at a time, there's time to blend each like additional color. So for instance, I just did the two darker colors, blended those, rinsed out my brush, went for a lighter the darker lightest purple, and then now I'm going into the lightest purple that I have and I'm going to blend it into that purple that I have. And because I'm just focused on that one petal at the time, it's still, I can still blend it and it looks fine. And if I need to come back with the darker color, I can still blend up. I'm curious, how have other artists done it? I'm just curious. I know I've seen other artists paint it, but I guess I wasn't necessarily paying attention to the technique or how they did it, or like what they started with and stuff like that. So if, for instance, for this one, I started with the light first and then went down to a little bit of the dark, and I'm coming back just to add a little bit of the dark on the end. I got the bottom. And because it's still wet, I can just blend it in to that. What's nice is because I've already pre-done these 4 colors, is I don't have to really think about color. All I have to think about is it dark or is it light? Is it the darkest shadow or is it a lighter shadow? Is it the brightest highlight, or is it just a little bit light? So like by just simply asking a few of those questions inside my mind, I can pick a color of what I think, of what I think it is, and then go based off of that. I don't even have to think about color. I'm just thinking about whether or not it's dark or it's light. One color. Got it. Okay. Yeah, I think there's definitely like stylistic ways that you can do roses, and there's plenty of like abstract ways that you can do roses too. I think it just depends on like the type of, you know, the type of rose that you want to do. If you wanted to do it realistic or if you want to do it more like stylized, which I think, I don't, because art is so subjective, there's no like wrong way to do it, you know, but I think having a few ways of being able to do it is really cool. Alright, so because I've done kind of the middle section, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here. Because everything, typically in acrylics, I like to work from back to front. But sometimes to wrap my head around things, I like to do the small intricate stuff first when it comes to roses, so I get kind of my bearings and figure out how it works with the middle. So now that I've done the middle, I'm going to go back here and kind of work my way from back to front. That way I can go over, I can kind of come down a little further and go over any imperfections, and that will kind of help speed things along. Instead of trying to go behind something that you've already painted, it'll just help speed up any process. So I'm going to be using the lightest color I have for the dark part and going over it with white. So now I'm going in with my white, blending it in. And because there's still a bunch of purple on my brush, I'm going to wipe it out and go in with just my white. Go to the edges, paint the edges, and then blend it in. And there you have the back rose. And we'll be able to put any textures that we want after, you know, at the very end. So for these, I think it's better to start at the tip with your white. Put on some white, and then you can come back in with a little bit of that purple at the bottom and then blend it up into your white. And look at that. So easy. So here, I'll do it again. And let's see if I can get out of the way for you. Alright, so I'm gonna do this one, and I want you to watch what I do. I'm getting my white, I'm putting my white on the outside, creating that nice line. Creating the nice line that I want it to have. I'm going over most of it with my white. Get a little bit of this light purple. Go directly at the bottom. I didn't wipe out my brush. So now I have that line. Now I'm just going to go back and forth, and it's going to blend with that white. Like that. And you could even start giving it texture by doing some of your blending this direction. I'm going to do it again over here. Creating my line. Filling it in with a lot of white. And then coming back in with my lightest purple. Blending it in. Zoom out just a little bit. Alright, there's a little bit of a shadow there, so I just simply darkened it with the darker of the lighter two purples. And I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to move into here, do like the next layer. I'm not going to go all the way around because there's a bunch of stuff that's, you know, before that, behind it. Another thing that I am paying attention to when I'm going over each one of these petals is to really try to cover up that line that I created for my traceable. The white usually does a pretty good job of covering it up, but we will have to go over any of the ones that aren't totally covered up when we do our kind of our highlight and low light fixing. I can already tell that a lot of the insides one here are just a tad bit on the dark side, so I know when I come back through I'll be adding a little bit more of some bright highlights for that middle section. But I think I have a good upper section here, so I'll just keep that trend of doing the white first and then coming down with that other color and just working each petal by itself. I'm going to, let's see, move around. Okay, so at this point we're starting to get in a little bit more of the like the pinky purples. So I think I'm going to take some of this purple and just add the slightest bit of pink to it. Just a little bit more on the warmer side. And this is mainly due because this side is in the sun and this side is in the shade. So because the light is coming a little bit underneath it, this is all in the shade and this is in the sun, so it's got that a little bit more of a warmer tint to it. I think color theory is really important when you're trying to do things that are realistic, because if the color is off, then the environment that it's in, there's like a disconnect. And I think having the right tint of colors, especially when you're doing things of nature, is really important if you want them to look realistic. So I'm doing a white that is slightly touched with this warmer pink, with the pink. And I'm doing that on the, like the top of this one. And I'm gonna come back in with this darker pink and just blend it in. And there's a pretty harsh line right here that is the reflection of, or not the reflection, the shadow of that. And I think I might even go back into the more purpley shadow because it gets more into the shadow. It's not a whole lot of darker colors up here. Other than a few dark colors that we'll have in this area, we're pretty much done with those darker colors because it's all, you know, hitting the light. A lot of practice. Somebody in the comments said you make it look so easy. I think I've learned over the years to let go and know that I can always fix mistakes if they come. For instance, just like just do it, just go for it, do it, and then if you make a mistake, and I think that's also, it's helped me to make less mistakes, or maybe I see less mistakes because I'm just painting it, and then once you're done, once you see the overall picture of it, it's a lot easier to see it as an overall picture than to be focused on the one little piece that you feel like you messed up, if that makes sense. Because if you're too focused on all the places you messed up, you won't see the entire picture. I think it's part of just learning to trust the process. I'm kind of using it like a marker. Somebody's saying in the comments, Linda, you're saying that my brush moves like a marker. I kind of am using it like a marker, to be honest. I have a little bit of paint on just the very tip of my brush, and I'm not putting very much pressure on it. I'm just using the tip of it. That's all I need to use. And yeah, and that's just kind of how I'm using it right now. I think if I were to do this painting again, I would probably do a wash of like a pink over the entire thing, just to help get into all the grooves of the canvas, because what I am finding out is I have a couple spots here and there that the canvas has once again beat me in my acrylics, and it's poking through. So I will have to go over some of those pieces. And once again with this one, I'm going to go over it with white and then come back in with the medium to dark purple, purplish pink, and blend it in. Sometimes when I'm blending, I'll go back and forth, but if it's a small enough area, I'll just do really, really tiny circles. Really, really tiny circles. I think part of that movement is also me trying to get it into all of the little crevices of the textured canvas, because the brush like moves it all in there. Grab a little bit of white, blend that in, little tiny circles to blend it all in. Go back into my white. and just working my way around. What's nice is once you start getting to the bigger flowers, it does go a lot faster because you're covering more space with the same amount of technique. So that's kind of nice. Let's see. This part over here is one of my last really dark spots. And grab, since I'm on this side, I'm still kind of working with that, with the more purpley light colors versus the pink ones. I think I need to go a little bit darker because this part is in the shadow. Like that. Now I get to do this really big one that kind of comes around. Focus on the outside of it first. Fill it all in with like a white, but if there's a little bit of pink in it, that's okay. It's okay that there's color in it. And then I'm going to add a little bit of my purple shadow. And I'm just going to blend that in. Just kind of blending it in circles. It's okay that it's okay if it has a little bit of texture. Okay, I want to get out some of this yellow because there is a little bit of some yellowish tints on the outside of this one. And I'm going to start moving in. And I'm going to start with this one because it's kind of behind it. So I'm going to grab my white with just a tint of yellow and maybe a touch of the pink just to warm it up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and move it back to where it was. Go ahead and just place in this yellow. I think something you have to accept when you're doing anything that's realistic or realism painting is that it does take time. Absolutely, it takes time. So you can't expect to, you know, start this and then get done with it, you know, probably this session. I think, especially if you're being taught. For me, I do paint a little bit faster, and I'm not having to look at my work and then look at somebody else's work and, like, you know, try to figure out what they're doing so that I can copy it. I'm just painting and having you guys follow. So that's definitely a difference when it comes to painting with like tutorials and stuff, is just know that even if you're not painting at the same speed, that's okay. Everyone has their own speed that they paint at. Alright, so the bottom stuff down here is like on the orangish side, so I'm going to do yellow, white, and pink. Kind of get like a cream coral color. And go ahead and do that. Adding a bit more of the pinkish color. And now I'm just going to go in with the white and blend that in. Alright, I have a few big ones I need to just finish up, and then we can get onto our onto the green. I think I'm going to switch to a large filbert brush. Get some more white out. Alright, so for this one, you want to make sure that you have highlights on both sides so that it really brings out that it's curving. I'm just putting in this middle one, putting in the darks where I feel like they are, blending that together. It's a little bit of a dark gradient underneath the flip over. Blend that together. Let's see. This one, it's a little bit of back end of this. I'm gonna go in with some white and blend it in to that pink I just put there. Sometimes just adding a tiny bit of water to your brush will help you be able to blend a little bit easier. You just have to try not to use too much or it'll start taking off what you want to keep on. Alright, you guys keep working. I have to go grab my baby real fast so I can feed her, and I'll be right back, okay? Alright, she's being fed with the bottle, so I am good to paint. We're almost done. We're in the home stretch because the leaves will not take long at all, so just going to blend this in, give it a little bit of shadow as it's going around the corner. I think the trick to this is just blending, blending, blending to make everything seem like it's going in smooth. So I have 2 more petals to do. Filling it in mostly pure white, and then this one has a little bit, because the color of it is white, some of the shadows are a little bit on the more grayer side, so we'll be using a little bit more gray for the shadow on that side. then just try to blend it out as much as you can. Alright. I think that is pretty much it. For the rose, you can come back and add any highlights or lowlights or textures and all of that from the different colors that you have. You can spend obviously as much time as you want on this. But yeah, so let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I'm going to do for the rest of this. I'm going to create my green real fast. Take my green, take my brown. I'll have to get a little bit more brown because mine's a little dark or a little dried. I'm going to take a little bit of Phthalo Blue and the tiniest bit of black. Mix that all together. Okay, I have a good medium green. I'm going to take some of this, put it over by the yellow because I'm going to mix it with yellow. And then the other part of this I'm going to mix with black to really darken it up. Really dark green. I'm going to make just a tad bit lighter of a green by just adding that green to my lighter green, just to have somewhat of a medium green. And then I'm going to add yellow and this green together. I need even more yellow. Alright, this is the color I want. It's like a leafy green. So essentially my green, the greens that I'm using because I have such a bright green, are essentially a mix of yellow to brighten it up, black to darken it, and brown to dull it. And then I have a little bit of blue in there. Alright, so what I'm going to do is first I'm going to figure out where I want my stem so I know where everything is going off on. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of this green, fairly watery, figure out where I want this, and it's kind of going at the angle, so it's going to start at the angle and then it kind of goes straight down a little bit. Like that. Obviously it's a little bit bigger in places. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my large brush, my large filbert, grab this dark color, a little bit of water, and I'm just going to place it in. And you can make them whatever shapes you want. I'm just going right over it. And you have one that's a little bit lighter. It's on the lighter side. It goes kind of down. And if you want to switch to a smaller brush for this part, you can. Add some shadows if you want on this one. Alright, so here's the part where we get to put in our stem. With just a touch of a lighter green. And then I'm going to go here and grab this more nature green that I created and do the left side of it. And since it's a little bit out of focus, it's not as, the details are not as pronounced as the rose. You still can add some of the, the details if you'd like to. But don't feel like you need to. I'm going to add a little bit of some lighter colors to this one in the back, just so that you can see the difference between that and the stem, and then I'm going to call it all done. All right. And I think that sums it up for me. I'm gonna probably come back and make a little adjustments here and there, but that is the gist of the class. Thank you so much for joining me. I really, appreciate it, as I just like, you know, if that happens, all you have to do is go in with your brush, take it right off, and thankfully, since it's still wet, I can just go back over with that same green. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. The next one is our coral reef. We're gonna be painting a bright colored fish, and I'm really excited about it. But yeah, I hope to see you soon. Don't forget the leaf that's right here. I'm gonna be adding that a little bit later. But thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good night, guys.